that's probably going to be announced sometime this month. So we may be shifting venues for where we hold our meetings, because it's highly likely they will be closed on Sundays, unfortunately. Or we may switch to another day, but we still have to figure that out. So I just want to give you a heads up on that. If we come up to future meetings, well, why aren't the library? Well, because the library is reducing hours. So just to let you know about that. Also, one other thing before I get to the main announcements, we have our props from our political theater over there for No Kings. I hope you, a lot of folks were there to see it, but if you provided props, go dig through the plane and the Trump mask and all the red tie and all that stuff, find what you brought, and really appreciate you helping make that event a success, including the political theater part. So, again, welcome. My name is Ward Kanowski, and along with Kyoko Takayama, we started this chapter of Indivisible Tri-Valley last December. I think this is meeting number 8. So for those that have been here, for all 8 meetings, a good portion of those out there, consider yourself OGs. Pretty much, okay. A couple of announcements before we get to some of our speakers. Good Trouble is on. Now that is a nationwide mobilization. I heard there are about 1,300 and probably going to go up to 1,500. Wow. There are already events out there that people are planning that just haven't made their way into the Good Trouble is on website yet. So last session I heard was that they're going to have 1,500 of these. So a lot of them. It's Thursday. Not as convenient as having it on a Saturday, but we moved it until 6 p.m. So hopefully that those of you who are at 9 to 5 can come and make it at the Dublin Civic Center. We have some, oh my God, terrific speakers for you. We have some other artwork prepared that I'm really anxious to see. Hopefully we got a playlist all set up for you. And we got all kinds of tabling. If you want to try and sign up to help out at the tables at the event, Kyoko's put up a sign-up sheet right over there. So we need help to make an event like this come off successfully. So check it out, and please come if you haven't already signed up, and bring a friend, bring your children, bring your neighbors, bring as many people as you can. For No Kings last June 14th, there were about 1,400 to sign up. At least double that showed up. Yep. So and we had that whole mile long.
It was great.
Wasn't that awesome?
Wasn't
that awesome? So come and be part of the movement, and it's time well spent. I promise you that. A couple of other things, community service opportunities. So we are expanding some of the stuff that we're doing. It's not just protest all the time. Let's go help at these meetings. Let's go out and help in the community. So we have a session at Open Heart Kitchen on July 30th, and we still have about 3 or 4 slots. They can only take up to 15.
No. It's all filled.
Huh?
It's all filled.
Oh, it's all filled.
It's
Well, I tell you what. I did not know that. I'm going to organize it. Thank you. Well, I tell you what. In case a slot comes open, somebody drops out, I'll put it on Slack and let you know. I hope the Goodness Village will take up to 12 people. Now, Goodness Village, both these location things are on Livermore. Goodness Village has, let's say, 28 tiny homes for some of our homeless community. So this will be a good opportunity to see what they do and also learn more about being housed in our own community in the Tri-Valley. So, and we'll be doing a lot more of this kind of stuff. Kyoko and I met with the Tri-Valley Nonprofit Alliance this past week, and we're looking for opportunities to partner with them as much as we can. We have the box over here of food donations, and non-food donations like hygiene stuff, and that stuff is all going to Tri-Valley Haven. So that's going to be at all the meetings. We'll have a lot of boxes at Good Trouble Lives On. So if you can bring a donation, that would be fabulous. Because we're going to, as I said, we'll have a lot of boxes. So, peacekeeping. Roy Knifton, our lead peacekeeper, is here, and he's going to talk to you about a little bit about what a peacekeeper does, about the need for more peacekeepers, about the training that you can go through that's really, really valuable, and again, time well spent. So I'll give it to Roy for a few minutes here.
Thanks, Board. And thank you to those of you, there's a few people here who were in the training yesterday. And so we trained about 18 people between Tri-Valley, Eden area, and Livermore Indivisible. And we're very fortunate that we have the Gandhi team from San Jose that's done all of our training. To date, they now feel that we can take over and do the basic training going forward. They're going to have level 3 training for organizers that will go to virtually, but it's a changing dynamic. As you all know, things are changing in our country. The nature of protest is changing, and Wendy, who did the training yesterday, was telling us that they've even had to rethink things with ICE protests and stuff. So the job of a peacekeeper is to be able to de-escalate. So it's training and de-escalation. And the training involves, it's 3 hours in-person training. It involves a lot of understanding, de-escalation, calming ourselves down, and then we actually have like a hassle line where we take roles and be agitators versus peacekeepers to really, and the star of the show is right here. You're an actor, right? Okay, and he was all in, but it's really useful because when you're acting out that role, you learn to know how you're feeling, you learn empathy, you learn first of all to listen, to calm yourself, to start to hear what the person's saying, and then possibly engage with them, because at some point we will have to try to de-escalate, and it helps us to walk through those steps. And we have, at protests, we've had right-wing agitators. We have one of the best who was very successful in provoking people to anger a few months ago, and we made a lot of progress, and now we have one regular that shows up. But we also have people who wander in like we did yesterday. So when we were talking this person down, he was just a random guy driving by, and so we have to be prepared for anything. So it's a really important role, and if there's anyone here who might be interested in doing that, taking the training, please see me afterwards, and we'd be happy to have you join in with us. Thank you.
Roy, I'm sure you said it, but just want to emphasize, when we have these events, when we are over at Tesla, when we did No Kings, when we have Good Trouble, we are a nonviolent organization, and that's what we preach, and that's what we try to drill into everybody that comes to our stuff. We want to keep people safe, and the way we do that is by being nonviolent, by working closely with the city where we're having our event. So the next one, again, the Dublin Civic Center, we have a good relationship with the city manager, with the Dublin PD. They know we're coming. They know about how many people we're going to have. They know our peacekeepers. They know me. They know Kyoko. They know Roy. They know everybody. So we get as prepped as we can for these events to make sure that you have a meaningful experience and that you want to come back. And as I say, you join the movement, and that at no point do you think, oh, I feel safe. So we do that. We provide that too. So again, I'm sort of stalling here because one thing. Yeah, Fraser.
Can I talk about it?
Yes. Oh, go ahead. Sure.
So Ward and I are the co-founders, and recently we added steering committees. So we have 5 work groups, and from each group they chose the leadership. So the Michelle is democracy, climate, Todd. Just get up, stand up. And the Mori is immigration / racial and justice. Economic is Isabel. Isabel is out of town. And healthcare is Julie Elfin. And she is on leave right now with family stuff.
Oh, okay.
And we do have website, individualtribal.org. It's just one word. Also, we now have the social media presence. Facebook, we finally have the page, so it's an individual tribal. Blue Sky, and Instagram. And Fraser, we are waiting for, is high school students who just jumped in. And she is doing amazing job, especially the one we had for the July 4th. You must watch it. It was fantastic. So what we want you to do is if you are on any of these social media, we need everybody to follow and like it and comment on it, because that will raise the presence in the social media, and which is needed because we are here, we already know that, but we need to reach out the younger generation who may be Instagram, but certainly not on the Facebook. And the Blue Sky is more about reaching out to the democratic representative for us. So they are watching. So when we tag them, we certainly are talking to them. So we need you to actually follow it and repeat it. That will be great. Thank you. That's the intro for the social media.
Yeah, Eric. Oh, the mic.
No, I don't need a mic. Can I just dovetail?
What you talking, Chris?
I just wanted to interject one thing about peacekeeping. It's not just on the peacekeepers that wear the yellow vests, whether we're going to have a successful event or not. It's all of us. We run into agitators, and we're going to run into a lot more. And it's incumbent upon all of us, whether we wear a vest or not, to not engage with them. We're not going to convert them any more than we're going to convert them. They're going to convert us. So you may choose, you may not be in a position to be a peacekeeper, but please, when you show up at our rallies, be loud, but do not engage with agitators. Just walk away. Nothing good is going to come from it. Something really, really bad might come from it if you do. So, thank you.
Todd?
I don't know who this question is for, but I wanted to ask about t-shirts. Tribal t-shirts.
Oh. Okay.
Okay.
You want to take that one? It's in the queue. Yeah, go ahead.
And so Terry and I are finalizing designs, and I believe Janice is. Yeah. So we will talk about it, and it's in the pipeline.
Yeah, and just there is a grant program that Indivisible National offers called the GROW Grant, Grassroots Organizing Wins, GROW. One of the things we are looking at, we're going to apply for one of those, and we're partnering with Eden Area Indivisible on that. And by partnering with another Indivisible chapter, I think we can get up to $1,500. So, that is, I was thinking about one of the things you can use that money towards is merch, i.e. T-shirts. So it's in the pipeline, like Kyoko says. So you will have, and we'll have a variety of sizes to fit all. So, hey, social media. I just met Frasia, anyway, like Kyoko said, if some of the stuff she's posted is like, I'm blown away by it. The Instagram posts where you scroll over and you hear John Lewis speaking, still gives me chills. So Frasia's going to talk a little bit about something I know almost nothing about social media, what she's doing, what we can do, and how you guys can help out. So let me introduce Frasia. Want to come up front?
I don't know what the protocol is.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Hi, all. Well,
Hello. Oh, wow. Okay.
Fraser, what's going on?
I'm gonna go up.
We have no protocol.
Hi everyone, my name is Frasia. I'm 17 years old. I go to Granada High School in Livermore, and I recently got connected with Kyoko, and from there I was starting to help with the social media. I don't know if you guys have seen my stuff, but I really, really value being civically engaged, and I was really grateful that I could do it kind of in my way and help in any way that I could. So I've been working on the Instagram right now and just, designing things here and there, like the video for the Good Trouble event, and all of the posts. And so I would really, really love for any of y'all to reach out to me when you have any ideas. Some of y'all have been, and it's awesome. I really, really like bouncing ideas off of people and just getting us out there. Especially with Instagram, like growth can be kind of slow. But we started at 10 followers, and now we're at 210. So we'll go up from there. I'm excited.
Thank you so much. All right.
Can you also take a picture of the people, like short video today, if they're willing?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe she can also talk about how we can help share the posts and so forth to help grow those numbers. Not everybody knows how you can share a forward, a post, and how it can connect with you. You don't even have to rewrite it, things like that. So there might be some other tips.
Let me hand this over to Fraser.
Okay, especially with the Instagram posts, if you guys are on Instagram, the best way to share it with people is to put it on your story. So that's when you press the little there's like a paper airplane button in the corner of the post, and then there's a little plus sign where you put it on your story, because then everyone who's following you will see that post. And if you want to share it in like group chats, or if you're not on Instagram, I can start putting all of the links for the posts in the Slack, and then you guys could just copy paste it anywhere y'all want. Okay, does that sound good? Yeah. And I think everything also automatically connects to the Facebook, except I'm not super active on Facebook.
Oh, hey, Isha's got a question. Okay, go ahead.
So how do we find it?
Maybe in the future it could be helpful to have you can just do like a hands-on tutorial to show people how to do that. I think what you just explained there right now makes sense to you, but I think a lot of people it would be useful to be able to see exactly like how it works in reality.
I can screen record it and put it on Slack.
That would be great. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. And the other question I had for you was, I know we're moving to Instagram, but it seems like a lot of younger people are not even really on Instagram anymore either. So, if our goal is to get younger people engaged, what would you say is the platform that most people are on at the moment?
I would disagree with the thing that
Hey,
younger
Isha,
people
can you pass it the yeah, thank you.
I would just disagree with the thing that younger people aren't on Instagram
Okay.
anymore.
Close your mouth.
They're definitely also on TikTok.
Yeah.
So videos that we make, we could definitely write. So go ahead and post it on a TikTok account so I can get that started. It's just, okay, this is so silly. I have Indian parents, so they're like, you can't have a TikTok account. So someone else might have to run.
We will create another account and give it to you.
So, at the risk of everybody descending on Fraser after the meeting, we are here until 4:45. Usually, the meeting itself will end at 3, but I just extended it basically until closing, so folks can hang out. We have some other things we want to do, but Fraser will be here to answer all your tech questions. Okay, now is the interactive part of the meeting. Everybody got their phone? Oh, good times. Hang on. So, how many people, have you heard about SB 627, the No Secret Police Act? Yes, there is one at the federal level as well that was introduced by Alex Padilla. And Adam Schiff has signed on as a sponsor, an original sponsor as well. So that one's called the Visible Act. And that's an acronym for visible, blah, blah, blah. And that last, the LE stands for law enforcement. I forget what everything in between stands for. But there are similar bills. What we're doing with asking Rebecca Bauer-Cahan and Liz Ortega is to sign on as co-sponsors to this bill. It started in the state Senate, has passed through the Senate, and now is in the House. And they haven't signed on as co-sponsors yet. I'm hoping they will, and this will help urge them in that direction. So everybody, if you want to pull out your phones, call. If you're a constituent of Rebecca Bauer-Cahan, you'll call Rebecca. If you're a constituent of Liz Ortega, call. What's that? We're Liz Ortega. Barely. But we're Liz Ortega, yeah. Hi. This is now in the assembly. What is going, if a law enforcement officer, including the agents from ICE, try to disguise themselves or don't wear identifications that can't be seen, then they can be charged with a misdemeanor. So it is making it a crime to put those masks on.
Right, I understand. So the visible act
It's similar to this, but it's at the federal level. This is at the state level. Yeah, this is California. The other one is, as I say, Alex Padilla, one of our U.S. senators, Adam Schiff. Yeah. Oh, does everybody know? Everybody know who their representative is?
Yes.
You. Thank you for doing that. Before I get to our next speaker, one thing I forgot to mention about Good Trouble lives on, bake. Okay, so if you like to bake, or if you want to go to Safeway and buy baked goods, like cheat like I do, we are going to have a table with baked goods where folks can make a donation and that will go directly to Tri-Valley Haven. So we have some flyers up here on this. Take one with you. There's a QR code you can scan. Does the QR code take them to the site for signing up for Good Trouble?
Yes.
It does. So if you want to sign up, and you have to sign up for Good Trouble, QR code for your convenience is right here. Okay?
Or, I
Yeah.
had a question about that. So do we just bring our baked goods to that table on Thursday?
Is that correct? Yeah. Let me give this.
Before 5:30,
Before 5:30?
or actually deliver it to the Jenny's house. So that all the information will be available upon your signing up. So you
Wasn't
can,
there when I said that?
no, here is the sign up stuff. So,
I already signed up online and
not,
it didn't have that
oh, in
information.
the baking stuff?
Yeah,
She's going to contact you.
okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Is the group, is it Mothers Against Violence, or what is the group that's doing this? Moms Against Violence?
So there was some complications, so we are not naming names.
Oh, are they going to be the ones that are collecting the money and accounting for the money themselves, so we don't have to get involved in that?
Yeah, so money is just going through,
Okay,
and we are not handling it. So we will have QR code and cash, but cash just goes to Tri-Valley Heaven, so we are not doing anything.
gotcha, okay.
And the table stuff is there too, so after the lessons, we will have one.
Okay, so our next speaker, I want you to pay close attention. Vanessa came from Sacramento, so it's not like we're here quite in her backyard. And Vanessa, I've heard various titles: West Coast Regional Organizer, etc. I'll let you give her your actual title, Vanessa, but she's been around since Trump 1.0, and she can talk about indivisible on a statewide level. So I'll give it to Vanessa. Thank you so much.
Hi everybody, thanks for having me. It feels like my backyard. 2 hours is not a lot for me. I drove to Tehachapi last month, and that was like a 5.5 hour ride. And that was a little miserable, so this is easy peasy. So yeah, I'm gonna be talking about two things that kind of seem disjointed, so it's gonna seem like two different trainings, sort of. I'm going to be talking about Indivisible California State Strong, and I'm going to be also talking about Indivisible National's Theory of Change. So once you hear the theory of change, which follows the CAST presentation, you'll see how it dovetails into our statewide work. Okay. So Indivisible California State Strong is a coalition of indivisibles across California that includes Indivisible Tri-Valley. And we focus on passing progressive legislation. Progressive is the key word. We're focused on passing anything but progressive legislation that's going to enhance protecting the climate and the environment, privacy rights, corporate responsibility, healthcare, individual rights, all those things up there. So yeah, that's what we focus on. And these are some of our members, not all of them, and Tri-Valley's not up there yet because we have to actually do a whole remake of that because we have so many new groups in California. In fact, it says we have 80 groups that are signed up, but in California now we have 244 groups across the state. It's really exciting, so we're working on getting all those new people to be part of us. And that's what we call Indivisible California State Strong, for short, CAS. So, in addition to passing progressive legislation, we also focus on legislation that's going to be tough to pass. Because we don't want to spend our valuable time, everybody's doing this for free with their limited time and resources. So we don't want to spend our time working on something that's going to sail through the legislature. So we work on things that are going to be tough to pass. And here I have just a picture of the Problem Solvers Caucus, and they are sort of the mod Dems of the legislature. It's a bicameral effort, so both the Senate and the Assembly are part of it. It's bipartisan, so it has Republicans and Democrats on it, and they call themselves the Problem Solvers Caucus, aligned with the Problem Solvers Caucus at the federal level, which just means that they're very moderate Dems that claim to want to work to get, bipartisan support for their various bills, but when it's bipartisan, it often means less progressive. So how CAS works? We have 5 work groups that we have, open to having more, but there's 5 work groups that we currently have: democracy reform, healthcare and reproductive justice, climate justice, economic justice, education, privacy and civil rights, and racial and criminal justice reform. And those 5 work groups work on specific bills that we prioritize at the beginning of the year. As a work group member, members can do all of these things. I'm not going to read it to you and exhaust you, but they track our legislation, they call the author's office, they get involved with the sponsors, who are like the community-based organizations that often write and present the legislation for members of the legislature to introduce. And they usually have coalitions around particularly these pieces of legislation that are going to be hard to pass that we work on. So they'll attend the regular meetings and report back about what's going on with the bill. They'll find when a bill has been amended and update us with the text. And they'll write letters of support or opposition. They will contact members of the rest of the coalition to say, hey, we really need support in, Assembly Member Bauer Hands Off district. So can you ask all your members to call her on the No Secret Police Act, for instance. So that's just some of the stuff that they do. How do we set our priorities? So those 5 work groups work on priorities that we set for the year. And we set those by nominating bills, first of all. They take place in January, February. Our legislative session starts in December, but in earnest in January is when the bills are being introduced, and they get introduced through the end of February. There are legislative deadlines according to a calendar, of course. And so all of the groups that are part of our coalition get to introduce up to 5 bills in that nomination period. So ostensibly, if all 80 groups participated, which they don't, but if all 80 groups participated, we could have hundreds of bills introduced. In this case, for 2025, we had about 65 bills introduced. And the work groups will determine their capacity. So each work group will say, okay, based on the number of members we have and their individual capacities, we can take on 5 bills this year. And that's what they do. And so that's how many bills people will get to vote on. We do have a vetting meeting for all of that legislation that's proposed. We go through each piece of legislation to make sure, one, that it's a progressive policy, 2, that it's going to be tough to pass in the legislature, and then 3, we have a set of vetting criteria, like does this expand democracy, does this protect marginalized communities, things like that. So we go through a vetting meeting before introducing the voting form to all of our membership, and in March, for 2 weeks, we open it up to all of the groups that are part of the coalition to vote. And the top vote getters are the ones that become priority bills, but all of the bills that were vetted and that made it onto the nominations list to be voted on become endorsed, meaning Indivisible California State Strong will say, we endorse this piece of legislation. The priority bills mean we're actively working on them, so we're following them through the start to finish, from introduction to signed by the governor. Sometimes bills die, or they get gut amended, which means that somebody, the author of the bill, will take the contents of the bill as it currently exists and replace it with something entirely new, having nothing to do with it. And so we have to let those bills go because those aren't bills that we focus on. So we can endorse additional legislation throughout the year by a simple nomination form from a group. And we have an organizing team that takes a majority vote to endorse that bill. And once a bill is endorsed, then a work group, any of those 5 work groups, can pick it up and choose to prioritize it. This is our organizing team for those that are interested. It's the lead of our climate justice work group, Faye Johnson, Raj Faye, who I didn't have a picture of, so she's got an angel. Raj Faye is the leader of our democracy reform work group, and Isabel Story is the leader of our healthcare work group, and I'm currently leading both the racial criminal justice reform and the economic justice work groups. So this is just a little bit about how the California legislature works. I won't belabor you with all of the details, but essentially a bill has to be introduced, and upon introduction has to sit on the shelf for 30 days. That gives the other members of the House that they're in the ability to actually read the bill. Then it goes to the Rules Committee, where the Rules Committee will assign it to its policy committees. It goes into its policy committees. It could be education, healthcare, public safety, and it has to meet specific deadlines to pass out of its policy committees. If a bill has a fiscal impact, then it has to go through the Appropriations Committee. So it goes to the Appropriations Committee, and if a bill has a fiscal impact of more than $50,000 in the Senate or more than $150,000 in the Assembly, then it goes into what's called a suspense file, which means that the bill has a bigger fiscal impact, and they have to determine what priorities to prioritize in the budget. So the suspense file is actually a really opaque process that we don't have a lot of influence over because it is mostly done by Democratic leadership, and it's very frustrating when something goes on suspense. You just have to sort of cross your fingers. I mean, we do call and we do send letters, but mostly it's crossing your fingers and hoping that your bill's going to get off. It has a suspense file hearing, which is sort of a vote-a-rama all day long. They'll go through hundreds of bills that are on suspense and say yes or no to voting them off. That deadline is in late May. Then it goes to the House floor for a second and third reading, and then it can take a vote. If it passes, and that vote, which just happened in early June, then it goes into its second house. So from its house of origin into its second house. And then it repeats the process again. And then if the bill was significantly amended in any way, it has to go back to its house of origin for a concurrent vote to make sure that it still aligns with the values of the people that voted for it in the first place. This whole process is has various calendar deadlines, but we have a 2-year legislative session. So our legislative session started in January of this year, and it will go actually until August of 2026. So bills, if they die in the Appropriations Committee, then they can still be picked up and moved in January of next year. If they're in their house of origin, if they're in their second house, they can be moved in the second year as well. If they die in policy committees in their house of origin, then they're dead for the year and they can be reintroduced by the author. And sometimes they are and sometimes they aren't. But after it passes the legislature, it of course has to go to the governor's desk. The governor chooses to sign or veto it, and if he does veto it, it requires a 2/3 vote to override. We have not overridden a veto since like 1978. It's really a long time, so if he vetoes it, it's really, people are cautious about crossing the governor because there's a lot of politics in play, so they're not going to override the veto usually. And these are the legislative deadlines. I won't belabor you with them, but right now we are at this policy committee, and the deadline for those bills to pass is this Friday, July 19th, or it's July 18th technically, July 19th is Saturday. So bills have to pass all of their policy committees by this Friday in order to advance to the Appropriations Committee or to the floor. And these are the rest of the timeline for the rest of the year. There's a recess in July and August, which there is every year. It's a month for the legislators to meet in district, which usually is for the purposes of elections, so that they can be in district and be running for the office, because the assembly has to do that every 2 years. And then all of the bills have to pass their Appropriations Committee by August 29th, have to pass the floor by September 12th, and then the governor has to sign them by October 12th. The legislative timeline is just sort of what we do during those periods. So as you can see right now, we're in the policy committees. So we're providing written testimony, which is our letters of support or opposition, oral testimony, which is actually going in person to the legislature and speaking at a hearing and giving what's called a Me Too, which is just simply saying that with Indivisible California State Strong, and we're in strong support of this bill. You can also testify at the legislature if you're working with a coalition. I have testified before on a bill, but that's separate. And then we also encourage office visits and calls to committee members for local groups during this time. Groups are going to be going through in-district visits, since the members are going to be in district starting at the end of next week. So we're encouraging them to have visits with their members to let them know about our priorities, to encourage them to vote for them, sign on as co-sponsors, that sort of thing. And then, of course, when we come back, we'll do coordinated calls for all of our bills that made it out of their Appropriations Committee, and we'll put pressure on the governor when the time comes. Just for a little information, there are 2 chambers. In case you didn't know, we have a bicameral legislature in California, which is not the case for all legislatures across the U.S., and we are one of only 2 that do a 2-year legislative session. We have a state assembly, which has 80 members and serves 2-year terms, and the Speaker of the Assembly is Robert Rivas. And then we also have the Senate, which serves 4-year terms. There's 40 members. They both have a 12-year term limit successively, so 12 years total when they move from the Assembly to the Senate, but it's 12 years total in the legislature. Right now we have President Pro Tem Mike McGuire from, I think, Healdsburg, and Robert Rivas is from Salinas. The Senate tends to be more progressive. We are going to be getting a new pro tem because Senator McGuire terms out next year, so we have a new pro tem coming, Monica. I can't remember her name at this right now. Just letting folks know, we have a really new legislature. We have 25 new assembly members, so it's really fresh in the legislature. I'm not going to belabor you with all of these. We had 5 new state senators, and then we had 7 former assembly members move over to the Senate. So the legislature is really fresh right now. We have the priority bills that I mentioned that we vote on at the beginning of the year. We have, oh, I forgot it. I do this every time. I make them animated and I hate it with my whole soul. Okay, so these are all the bills that our healthcare and reproductive justice work group are working on right now. There's a lot of them. I won't make you read all of them. I will provide this slideshow to Ward and Kyoto so they can send it out if you're really interested. You can get involved. So if you want to take pictures, that's fine. But you can also get it from that. So they're working on some really important things. One of the things that they're working on is AB 55, which requires alternative birth centers to be medical eligible. This is really applies to rural hospitals and places that don't have access to regular hospitals. And they're doing a bunch of other good things, strengthening non-discrimination protectives for gender-affirming care for trans people and non-binary folks, a variety of other things. Our climate justice work group is working on these bills. The one in red is the Investor-Owned Utilities Accountability Act. It's red from my previous presentation for this. We just saw that this bill was become a study bill. So it used to have a lot of meat to it. It was going to be a really interesting bill that was going to make actual change in California. But they have watered it down so much that it's become a study bill, which just means that they're going to study the effects of the proposals. And we don't work on things that are just study bills. We work on things that are going to make actual change. So we deprioritize that bill when it's not going through. And then we also have the grid regionalization bill, which we're opposing. That is a bill that's been very popular with our indivisible groups to oppose. It's a bill that would sort of farm out our electricity grids and allow other states to be able to have a say in what resources we use to power our electricity, and would probably move us away from our climate goals. The Economic Justice, Privacy, Civil Rights, and Education work group is working on really good bills. The Social Housing Act is a bill that has been introduced in previous sessions by Member Lee. But it is a bill that would establish a department that would work on just providing social housing, which is affordable housing for people. There's a bond that they're working on. The limiting homeowners to 1,000 units, that's in response to BlackRock that owns thousands and thousands of units and drives up the prices of rents in communities. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but can you go back one slide about SB 540? Because in the last meeting, we had Nerdy, our state senator, who came, and after our group called to tell him to oppose it, he said he was going to vote for it because it would, they would change the process, or they would change the wording when it gets passed. So what do we do?
Yeah, I mean, we are taking an opposed position on it, so putting pressure on McNerney to oppose it, like sending letters to his office, calling into his office. If you know him, try to make personal pleas.
And we did that. We did that, but then when he was here, he said he was going to vote yes on it.
Yeah.
And then, so what do we do after that? Like, we can't do anything anymore, right?
You can't really do anything if he's, discounting his constituency and he's gonna vote for a yes anyway. You can hold him accountable afterwards. So afterwards, still apply the pressure until he actually votes for it. But afterwards, hold him accountable, and we could publicly shame him. We could say he voted for this bill that's going to destroy our energy and climate standards. So we can post it on Instagram, like Fraser was talking about, or we can post it on Blue Sky and Facebook, and just make them know that the constituents are pissed off about it. Okay, and then our next work group, Democracy Reform, is working on these bills, allowing for public financing of elections, which is a bill we've been working on for 6 years. We play the long game, so we work on things that are really hard to pass, and a lot of times they don't pass. We have to continue to introduce them, and we continue to work with the legislators on moving them to the left. SB 398 is a bill that is in response to Elon Musk giving people $1 million to vote for Donald Trump. So we're making it a crime for a person to pay someone to vote in a certain way. And SB 470 is a good bill. So during the pandemic, our legislature moved entirely remote. It allowed for constituents across the state to be able to call into their hearings and make those Me Too's I mentioned, give that public testimony. But they did away with it following the pandemic in like 2023 because it costs money. And we want to bring it back. So our Democracy Reform Work Group has a campaign to bring it back that we've been trying to put pressure on members of the Assembly in particular to sponsor it. We haven't gotten a sponsor yet, but this bill would extend teleconference meetings at state bodies and advisory boards, and that sort of moves the Overton window over just a little bit. It pushes us to be able to say, hey, we're already doing it at the more local level. We should be doing it at the state level as well because it's just good for democracy. And then last but not least is our Racial and Criminal Justice Reform Work Group. We are working on all of these bills, including SB 627, which you all just called about. There is a bill that is akin to it, which is SB 804, which strengthens the officer impersonation laws and requires officers to also clearly display identification, so it's sort of doubling up on that. And then we're working on some other bills that are like SB 1231. It permits judges to use their discretion for pretrial diversion rather than a felony conviction, so they can choose to move in, they can choose to put them in like a learning program instead of charging them with a felony. Did you have a question?
I just want to know, are any of these like elevated to an emergency, like 1231 and 804? It's like we need that kind of thing right now. Is there any way to elevate these? Because it sounds like these things won't be passed maybe till the end of next year.
Yeah, so bills can have what's called an urgency clause attached to it, which means if it gets passed, it gets enacted immediately. And it doesn't have to wait until generally most bills get enacted the following year on January 1st. So if a bill has an urgency clause attached to it, then it will be. I don't remember if 627 has an urgency clause attached to it or not, but it certainly should.
Yeah.
Yes.
How do states legislatures communicate with each other to take bills like this and get other states to try to pass them?
Ooh, I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. So, yeah, right into it, as a matter of fact. We have a campaign at Indivisible called Blue State Defiance, because we think defiance starts at the state house. If we want to Trump-proof our state, we need other states to be Trump-proofing them as well. So our Blue State Defiance campaign is specifically for the 15 states that have a blue state trifecta. So we have a Democratic governor, a Democratic legislature, or a Democratic Senate, and a Democratic House. So because Trump is targeting these states in particular, we need to make sure we're doing our best to shore up our laws to push back on the worst of his policies. So why blue states? They have real power. California pays more in taxes than we actually receive back in taxes, so we actually have the ability to withhold our taxes if we wanted to, and that would cause harm to other states that actually benefit from the taxes we give them, unfortunately. But it's a way to act boldly and block the worst of Trump's effects. We can sue, we can pass laws, we can create safe zones and legal shields, and we're leading by example. So that's why we think it's important for this campaign to force action. So the way that the legislatures talk between them is through the governors. There's a coalition of governors, all blue state governors, as well as governors just across the states, and they communicate with each other and say, okay, our legislator is working on this bill, which we think is important. And in fact, the SB 627 bill was also introduced in New York already, so we have other states that are working on this as well. And then, of course, Senator Brady introduced the federal version. These are the things that state officials can do. They can ban for ICE specifically. This is just to mention ICE in particular because it's terrorizing our communities. So SB 627 and SB 804, like we talked about, will make sure that they can't be anonymous anymore, and we can hold those people accountable. So that's what we're trying to do. And I think that's actually, oh, nope, not it. These are just the next dates these work groups are going to meet. So if you're interested in working on passing progressive state policy, it is really cool. It's interesting, and we always need more people to join the movement. So these are the times that the next groups are meeting. Our healthcare work group meets every week, and the other work groups meet bi-weekly. Yes?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I actually am on the CAS healthcare work group. And yeah, and it has been a very interesting experience and process, and you don't have to know anything to join the work group. The people there will help move you along in learning the process and all that sort of stuff. And I have found it fascinating, and I would really encourage you guys to, if anybody's interested in any of these work groups, to join them, because as she said, the more people in those work groups, the more bills that they can then work on, because it's limited by the capacity of the work group. So
Yeah.
go for it.
What's your name?
Linda.
Linda, you're the best. I appreciate Linda giving testimony. More people be like Linda. Oh, another question?
Yes, if we want to join a work group or attend one of the meetings, how do we get on for this, for the meeting?
There's an easy form that you can fill out that I will make sure that I give to Ward and Kyoto to share after this meeting.
And our work groups are aligned with theirs. So first thing you can do is actually join our work groups.
Yes.
And then we will share all the information. So if you are interested in one of those groups, first thing is signing up. Okay?
Yes, sign up with Invisible Tri-Valley, absolutely. Yes.
So you said, I know as a state, we pay more to taxes than we get back, and then what we can do as a state is to withhold some of those taxes. How do we do that? I mean, right now, I can't sleep at night thinking that our money is going to pay for a concentration camp in Florida. I mean, we need to do something. I mean, we can't just wait, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it would be like a movement by the governor and the legislature, something that would have to happen. It doesn't seem like there's the political will there right now to actually withhold our taxes, but as we get further into fascism, we can actually see that come to fruition. But I don't actually know, like, logistically how that works, to be honest. So I'm sorry.
It's on top.
I'm just curious. I've heard of Earth Justice long before Indivisible. Are you the same? Are you the one with the slogan, Earth Justice because the world needs a lawyer?
No, we're not affiliated with Earth
So,
Justice.
so it's a different.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but sometimes Earth Justice writes bills that we might be supporting. Yeah. Any other questions?
Hey, so I had a question about how we actually choose bills. So I'm on the Democracy Reform Task Group, actually, and this is my first time going through that process. And one thing that I found difficult was to figure out the actual policy impact of a bill. So reading it as a layperson, you can sort of figure out, okay, this is probably good, and this is probably something we want. But truly understanding the impact is quite challenging and can be deceptive sometimes, right? Like you might think this is a really good idea, and then you go to implement it, but it adds, let's say, more bureaucracy to the system, which actually slows things down, and it is bad. So how do you think about sort of addressing that issue? Like we're not policy experts trying to figure out the best bill to go after. Are there policy experts that Indivisible is working with to be like, these are the bills that we know will actually have a meaningful impact, and we know it will have a meaningful impact because policy experts have actually looked into it?
So we sit on a coalition of progressive nonprofits across California called the Dream Builders Alliance, which includes organizations like ACLU and Smart Justice and Environmental Voters, and there's over 60 groups. And so we confer with them when we are, part of our vetting process is seeing whether or not the bills align with their list of priorities. And our people that shepherd the bills are in conversation with the coalitions that introduce those bills to ask questions like that. But truly, honestly, there's not a way to fully think out what's going to happen after a bill is implemented that might cause harm and might require like logistical tweaking. Sometimes there are bills that come up that are tweaking a law because, like the Racial Justice Act of 2025 is in response to the Racial Justice Act of 2020 not working the way it's intended. So, sometimes we just have to double up and continue those.
Yeah, I mean the process is imperfect and there's so much going on, so it's hard to understand everything as, so that makes sense. But
Yeah, it's a good question. You guys are full of questions, I'm loving it.
So have the groups been discussing how to deal with one group's trying to work within the world of laws and the other side has decided not to work within the rules of laws and disregard laws and the danger that it puts everybody in because of the slowness of law and the quickness of lawlessness?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are, the wheels of legislation move slowly. Like I mentioned before, some bills have an urgency clause attached to it and they'll sail through the legislature. But because we focus on state legislature and not federal legislation, we are not necessarily addressing a lot of the current things that are happening, except in the cases of like when they did that amend and introduced SB 627, the No Secret Police Act. Their author is taking one of their bills that were important to them and saying, you know what, this is more important right now. So that's how they can actually do that, by taking bills that are already moving and transposing them into a brand new bill. But unfortunately, no, there's not a lot we're doing to address everything that's going on currently, but that's part of what our thinking was in selecting some of the bills that we did select at the beginning of the year. We viewed it with the lens of trying to Trump-proof California to the best of our abilities. Yeah. Todd?
I just had a question. You may not know the answer, but do we know why McNerney voted against that bill when it's so obviously against his constituents for solar power? I mean, he was here, he was talking to us, looked us right in the face, and it's just confusing why he was voting against it.
Senator Josh Becker is the author of that bill, and he believes in it very strongly. They believe that grid regionalization is going to enhance the things that we can do with our electricity and support other states as well. So there's actually a long list of people opposed to it, but a long list of people that are supportive of it as well. So it's just, he's choosing a side, and while Indivisible California State Strong is against it, he might be lobbied by, big oil, or being lobbied by, other people that donate to his campaign. So he's hearing essentially more from them than he is from us and choosing their side.
There is actually a little bit more to that. So he is energy sector's people. So he's not taking money from the oil and stuff like that, but he has his own opinion, and in a way, sometimes he thinks he knows better than the rest of us. That's always sometimes the case in every elected official. Right. So that's a conversation we have to keep having. But we need to educate ourselves even more than he knows, because otherwise we're not going to get his respect to change his mind. So it's a long process.
Yeah, meeting with him regularly is really important to build that trust and relationship, and so that you can start to see, okay, these constituents are not going to back down. I'll also say, just because he doesn't receive money from Big Oil does not mean he's not being lobbied by Big Oil. Big Oil is lobbying all around legislators.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the second part of my presentation, which is about indivisible national. Oh, I forgot it. I had this whole part about how to do constituent advocacy, but I think it's actually running late right now. So I'm gonna sort of breeze past it, and you all can look at it in the notes that are followed up. But essentially, strategic lobbying means that we're gonna reduce redundancy, strategic targeting, collective voice, and coordinated action. That's why we come together as a state network, as a coalition, because it does all of these things. And the things we use in order to be able to know our legislator more, like McNerney, is we can use the California Courage Score, which is a compilation of all of the votes that they've taken on progressive bills in the last several years, as well as all the scorecards that are put out by progressive nonprofits like ACLU and Enviro Voters. You can go to couragescore.org and find what they are. It gives them a grade rating. So like A is the superstars and F is all the publishing people. You can also go to followthemoney.org, which is merging with Open Secrets. .org, which Open Secrets does federal level stuff, Follow the Money does state level stuff. It's a little bit challenging to find since they're doing a merge right now but it'll tell you where they're getting their money from. You can see their past votes from prior sessions on bills by going to leginfo.org. And you can go and check what their committee memberships are to see what their interests and influence are. So these are all things that you can use to get to know your legislator more. I'm going to skip this. That's the Courage Score introduction. Knowing who to lobby, so we always encourage lobbying your own legislator. Other legislators, you can lobby like the chairs of committees, for instance, in their capacity. But by and large, they really only care about their own constituents because those are the people that they have to be beholden to during election season. And you lobby them if they're a key decision maker or if they've not committed to your position, and lobby them in person or by calling and things like that. 1 to 3 weeks before a vote is going to happen, either in committee or on the floor, and after the vote takes place for accountability, like in the case of McNerney voting for SB 540. And these are things that you should lobby your legislator about. Like I said, if they have committee memberships, about their top donors, about their past voting history, just challenge all of these things when you're having a conversation with them. And then the things that motivate your state legislator are re-election, first and foremost. They want to pass bills. They want a good track record of getting their bills signed into law. And then, of course, money and lobbying is a big influence. And then if they have aspirations for higher office, which a lot of them do. And public pressure from constituents, absolutely. And then just if you are planning to do a lobby visit or in a virtual meeting, this is how you would go about doing that during your meeting. And I have some more slides on that, but I'll make sure that Ward has sort of delved into how to do that better. And then, just so you know, Indivisible coordinates in these 4 ways. Through our State Strong work groups, we have a California statewide Slack, we also have a Google group listserv, and we have bi-weekly state leader calls. So, yes?
Can you just explain Slack team, what that means?
Slack is a tool that is like a workspace where you can have different channels and talk about various things. So in our California statewide Slack, for instance, we have a State Strong channel, which focuses all on state legislation, but there's a bevy of channels to choose from because there's almost 1,000 people in that. So there's a lot of ways. It's a way to coordinate with other people and talk to other people without being face-to-face with them. Like, kind of like text messaging, but in a better way. All right. Here is the Conditions for Courage. This is our theory of change. And because this is my first time presenting it, because we haven't rolled it out yet, if you have signed up for the 1 Million Rising phone call that's going to be taking place next Wednesday, the 16th, you're going to hear some of this, but this is a sort of preview for everybody. So, Conditions for Courage. So, we're in a period of authoritarian breakthrough. We have a short window in which a would-be authoritarian regime attempts to rapidly consolidate power, eliminate checks, and operate with impunity. So we're unlikely to win in the next 6 months, but we aren't successful in halting this breakthrough, we will be in a long-term fight on significantly more dangerous and challenging terrain. So unfortunately, that means we're in a race against time. And this is our framework for how we've set this, there's no change. Not to make everyone nervous, but there will be a way to take action and empower yourselves here, so I don't want you to feel discouraged. But this is a race against time. The regime aims to solidify its control before its unpopularity becomes debilitating for it. So our task is to build and activate powerful opposition, both with popular and the elites, capable of interrupting this consolidation through the courts, elite institutions, public defiance, and mass opposition. So right now the regime is focused on maximizing formal executive power, co-opting or silencing alternative centers of influence, maintaining the acquiescence of Congress and loyalist state houses, and normalizing disregard for the rule of law. You can see them doing all of these things right now. We see it in the avalanche of executive orders coming out, the expansive role and unaccountability of DOJ, and the defiance of courts and in Trump's own brazen corruption. So we see the bullying and threatening of any Republican member of Congress who even considers opposing a nominee or piece of legislation, like Lisa Murkowski came out and said she was actually afraid of Trump and what he could do to her, and that's part of her analysis when casting the vote on the big ugly bill. You see the constant assertions that Trump and his cronies are above the law, and that ongoing experimentation with defining their court orders. In a functioning democracy, elite institutions like businesses, media, higher education, professional associations, and even the judiciary serve as guardrails. They constrain overreach and uphold the liberal norms. The regime understands this and is working quickly to bring these sectors into compliance. So for many elite actors, they've failed in their duties right now. Rather than acting as a check, they've largely accommodated the regime because of greed or fear or ideological affinity. This represents a major breakdown in the intermediaries that should protect democracy. There has been a few exceptions from the judiciary, which were notable, but for the most part, there's a breakdown. Columbia University completely capitulated, but then Harvard fought back, and many colleges and universities joined what is essentially a mutual defense pact. And the Paul Weiss law firm caved and promised Trump $400 million in pro bono legal support for the regime. But then some Georgetown law students created this tracker of all of those people that were caving and were fighting back, and associates started resigning in protest. And some of those big law firms that have come under pressure have stood up and said no. So the question we're asking is people who take defeating authoritarianism seriously and are serious and sophisticated campaigners is, how does this happen? And what can we do to help tip the scales toward resistance and away from compliance? So we must demonstrate mass, invisible, and sustained defiance, create uncertainty about the regime's long-term viability, and strategically put pressure on key institutions whose decisions affect the regime's ability to consolidate. So there's a feedback loop between the regime's apparent strength and behaviors of the elites. Many actors now assume the regime will consolidate power, leading them to adopt strategies of anticipatory obedience. This is a sense of inevitability that we have to disrupt. And to disrupt this, we must demonstrate mass, visible, and sustained defiance, and do all the things that are listed on this slide. So our strategy is really guided by one core question, which is, does this action help or hinder the regime's consolidation of power? And that's sort of our analysis as we move through our area of change. So while the regime has been racing towards consolidation of power, we have been growing, we've been building, we've been mobilizing, and since the inauguration, we've seen rapid increase in mass mobilizations and creative disruptions. Moments like Hands Off, May Day protests, Tesla protests, and of course No Kings have all signaled a shift, that we're taking up space, we're refusing to be made invisible, and in all these moments, we're speaking not just to the elected officials, but to folks on the sidelines and to elite institutions that are enabling this authoritarianism. By building these moments of mass, visible opposition, we're eroding the false sense of inevitability around regime consolidation. Mass mobilization is what many of us are focused on right now. We're constantly in rapid response moments, but that's not our only impactful tactic or pattern of behavior that's going to get us further in this race. What we need to do is work to expose and exploit contradictions and fractures within elite institutions, so praising defiance and condemning compliance. We also need to drive visible protests and action between the major mobilizations. So something essential here, the constant work of visibility and accountability, that's always been sort of the secret sauce of Indivisible. But we're more than protesters, we're more than a boom and bust cycle of activation. We've been around since March of 2017. The Google Doc went out in December of 2016 after the election. We've stuck around. And when the stars align, we can score some key inflection points where narratives that highlight regime instability and rising opposition will overwhelm the sense of regime inevitability. So we saw something like that in the first week of April, where the tariffs hit and businesses started to openly question Trump's agenda. Then Senator Booker had his historic marathon floor speech, and then 3.5 million of us took to the streets for hands off. So to make those moments real, we must not only act, but also tell a story. One where the regime is unstable, opposition is rising, and courage is contagious. Oh, I missed this slide. Here it is. That was hands off. And so a lot of people have heard about the Big Ten and the necessity of 3.5% of the population to rise up in order to topple the regime. It's a shorthand way to say that we need more people to win this race. And every single person who's willing to look at the Trump regime and say, that's not me, or that's too far, we need those people on our side in order to reverse the authoritarian breakthrough we're currently in. And that might mean including people that voted for Trump and now regret it. That means moving beyond just mobilizing those who already agree with us politically or ideologically. Historically successful anti-authoritarian movements have made room for a wide range of participants across race, class, geography, and worldview, who are not united by perfect alignment, but by shared opposition to authoritarianism. So we don't need everyone to agree on everything. That's part of what fractures us in the left, is that we all take these purist tests. And we just need enough people that are willing to take action together. That's going to require humility, discipline, and active commitment to welcoming people in who may not think of themselves as activists, but who already stand up when given a role to play. Ready to stand up when given a role to play. So has everybody heard of the 3.5% rule?
Recently.
Yeah. Okay. So that comes from the research of political scientists Erica Chenoweth and their colleagues who analyzed over a century of resistance movements and found that no regime has withstood sustained, nonviolent resistance by just 3.5% of the population. So that's roughly 11.5 million people in the US today. So compare that to the 3.5 million people who took part in Hands Off, and then the 5 million people that took part in No Kings, we can see that that's actually within reach. The takeaway here, though, isn't a magic number. It's that the authoritarian regimes are not invincible. Mass, organized, nonviolent defiance can and will defeat them. So to recap the strategic imperatives, as indivisibles, we know how to do mass protests. We know how to do highly visible actions in between these moments of mass protests. We can highlight stories of resistance and defiant courage. But how do we better target the elite institutions that are so critical to whether Trump succeeds at consolidating power or not? And this is where our theory of change comes in. That brings us to one or more note on Chenoweth's research. Movements that often succeed with even less support than the 3.5% is if they can disrupt key systems and erode elite support. So these are our pillars of support. Some of you may have seen this when, after the election, we did a campaign called Worth Fighting For, and we encouraged people to have community conversations in their homes and for gatherings. This idea is that authoritarian regimes survive because of the support and acquiescence of key societal institutions. These pillars of support include the judiciary, corporations and industry leaders, professional associations, higher education and academia, religious institutions, media and information ecosystems, and so on and so forth. And when these pillars comply with authoritarian demands, they help entrench the regime. They may do so for a few reasons. It could be self-interest in maintaining influence or access, like the law firms that were capitulated to Trump. They could be acquiescing out of fear of punishment or marginalizations, like universities who preemptively change their curriculum, or corporations that remove diversity statements in the hopes that regime would not turn its eyes to them. Or ideological alignment with authoritarian goals, like Trump-aligned judges who continue to make up new ways to hand Trump power, or the corporate CEOs who cut huge checks to Trump who were behind him at his inauguration. That's what capitulation looks like. That's what we want. What we are looking for is defection. Defection, by contrast, weakens the regime. When individuals or groups within the institution refuse to comply, when they speak out or actively oppose the authoritarian actions, it breaks the illusion of inevitability and empowers further resistance. It shows others that both their pillar outside of it and that both their pillar and outside of their pillar, that they have power, and collectively that we have power. Each pillar plays a distinct role in either enabling or resisting authoritarian consolidation. So let's talk specifically about what compliance and defection means in practical terms. For some of these pillars, it's probably pretty intuitive, and we've mentioned examples of these already. We all know more or less what it looks like when those pillars do what Trump wants, and when they stand up to him. So what about the others? And you might think, well, what do these institutions do when they are pressured? What power do they have in the face of the weight of the federal government? Let's walk through a few examples. So religious institutions and compliance would look like providing moral cover or silence in the face of injustice. So serving on Trump's sham Religious Liberty Commission, that is actually a front for enforcing a Christian nationalism ideology on government policy. But defection looks like publicly denouncing authoritarian actions and mobilizing congregations for justice. Like when we saw Bishop Marianne Budd, who gave the inaugural sermon, who instead of saying what Trump wanted, fiercely advocated for the tenets of her faith, and gave an honest and defiant sermon in defense of LGBTQ+ people and immigrants. Corporations and industry leaders. For compliance, funding or enabling regime policies, remaining silent and suppressing employee activism is what compliance looks like. Like Target, who's been a prime example of this after they donated to Trump's inauguration committee and more recently gave another $1 million to Trump, breaking their tradition of not donating to either party's inaugurations and scraping in diversity goals for hiring and suppliers. Defection looks like refusing contracts, speaking out, and protecting vulnerable workers. So Greyhound West Lines publicly states that it won't allow warrantless immigration enforcement on its bus lines or non-public areas of its terminals, and prominently places voting rights information in multiple languages and contact information for the ACLU, the National Immigration Justice Center, and other resources for the riders on their bus. This is a result of lots of organizing, lawsuits, and activism over the years, and that's what makes it a really good example. Higher education compliance looks like silencing faculty or students, changing curriculum, failing to defend targeted students or faculty. The trustee and president of Columbia University struck a deal with Trump to hand over control over many campus policies, campus security, and control over the Middle Eastern Studies departments. But defection looks like defending academic freedom, producing and spreading knowledge that challenges authoritarianism. So in stark contrast to Columbia, Harvard responded to similar threats with defiance and stood up for their academic freedom for both their students and their faculty. This helped inspire other colleges and universities similarly to take a stand, and their defiance continues right now as they fight attacks on their international students. They're winning these fights in court or with the administration backing down. The cowardly path that Columbia took is not the only option on the table. For professional associations, like bar associations, medical boards, unions, compliance looks like staying neutral or silent, or failing to hold members accountable. There are lawyers that are actively working in the Trump administration or enabling it from the outside who continue to be members of good standing in their bar associations, for instance, even while playing pivotal roles in the attacks on the rule of law. That's an active choice by those state bar associations to stay silent. Defection can look like publicly opposing anti-democratic actions, issuing guidance and standards that support democratic integrity. And to their credit, the American Bar Association has spoken out against Trump's attacks on lawyers and judges. So now that we have an idea of what compliance and defection looks like across different pillars, we have to discuss how we can use that knowledge to push more actors in these pillars onto the defection side of the ledger. So you may be asking yourself, how do we actually impact the behavior of these pillars? We all know how to call our members of Congress or show up at their offices, but you can't call the customer support line at Boeing and tell them to break up with Trump. Here's how we would actually influence them. We would partner with organizations that have access to these pillars, like labor unions, experienced expert corporate campaigners. We would respond rapidly to behavior towards the regime. So publicly praise acts of courage and criticize complicity. Organize on the front end to increase the chance that institutions will do the right thing and do it quickly. We are, after all, in a race. And support insider organizing and lean into your own pillar identities. So many of you connected with Indivisible might connect Indivisible with your activist identity. We love that. We love that identity. Many of you are also active members of other communities like faith communities or members of professional associations or part of your alumni network. And what we're prompting here is the idea that those identities may be just as or more important and more strategic to access and organize through in this moment. And we need to figure out how to activate them. So we need to elevate and celebrate people who are being courageous and defiant and make it attractive and rewarded to do so. Every act of visible resistance within these institutions sends a powerful message that this regime is not inevitable and defiance is possible from the inside out.
Hey, Vanessa.
Yep.
Can you go back to the previous one? So, support insider organizing, just trying to think of an example. So like I'm an alumni of USC. They caved on DEI. So supporting insider organizing might be reaching out to their, to the alumni association. Is that
Precisely.
what that looks like?
Yeah, and saying I'm going to withhold my check for this year, or I'm going to organize people not to attend your reception cocktail hour, or we're not going to, support the boosters, or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the point is that defiance is everywhere, it's growing, and it's powerful, and it's us. So I'll just underline again that we're not powerless, that the regime's strength depends on the complicity of others, and complicity can be broken. Some of this is like exercising a new muscle, but if we build powerful opposition, foster elite defection, and consistently show that defiance is everywhere, we can stop authoritarian consolidation before it takes a permanent hold. So now is the time to organize courage, both at scale, across sectors, and from the inside out. So I just want to leave you by thinking of how can you, your group help build that 3.5%? What's Indivisible Tri-Mountain going to do to build that 3.5%? Who are the next group of people we can reach out to, like our friends and family members, people we meet at the grocery store? And then what pillar are you personally connected to? And what organizing opportunity do you see within that pillar that you could reach? I think that's it. Thank you all.
This training going to include how to have conversations, because all of us know people in a lot of different areas that fall into these categories. How to have conversations with people, how to identify people that maybe don't care or they're all in on the other side, or they have reservations, whether they'd like to do something, but they don't have the courage. Is there any guidance on having conversations like that?
Yes, I should have put up a slide here before my thank you with the 1 Million Rising campaign that we started. So this is a campaign to train 1 million people in noncompliance and organizing. And so it's sort of a train the trainer where we're going to be teaching you how to have those conversations in your community. And then we're going to be asking Indivisible groups, Indivisible members to have conversations in their homes with small groups of people that you may or may not know, and teach them about the pillars of support and brainstorm ways that they can interact with them to cause defection. So 1 Million Rising is a series of 3 calls that we have coming up On June 16th, we have a call that's going to sort of teach you some of what I've taught you and more about non-compliance. And this is in partnership with other groups, but Indivisible is running this programming. Then at that meeting, we're going to ask you to start planning what a meeting could look like for you that you might be willing to host. Then on July 31st, we have a second call where we're going to train you how to talk to those people, how to teach those people in your living room in that moment how to be co-conspirators and how to stand up in this moment. And then you would ostensibly hold these events between July 31st and the next call, which is August 13th. And that next call will sort of be, okay, now that we have trained a lot of people, what do we do next? And how are we going to go into our communities and tear down these pillars of support that are upholding the regime? Thank you for that question. Yes?
Joy first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry, hi.
Are you talking to any of the corporations or law firms who have submitted to extortion? I know they're calling it extraction. Our current administration is no different than the gangsters who go into a deli and say, give me your money or I'm going to burn your place down.
Yeah.
And they, especially with law firms, they've agreed to extortion instead of suing or filing charges against a criminal for extorting them.
Yeah.
Are you calling them out on that? I mean, they're lawyers. They should be obeying the law and supporting the law, not folding.
So that's what we're asking all of you to do, because we don't have it within our power to be able, apart from like posting a social media post, apart from that, we don't have it in our power to actually influence their behavior to change. So that's what we're doing with the pillars of support. We're asking people that have connections to those law firms and affiliations to be able to call them out and put pressure on them to defect.
I just wanted to ask about, many of these pillars have been used for decades, from civil rights, Vietnam, and women's rights, LGBTQ rights. But one thing I don't see here that we're going up against the dragon of social media, and he's doing a reality show, and I don't see. One thing I'm excited about is that we're launching something here and trying to really get the word out, because it is important to do the face-to-face, but many of us can amplify those messages through our social media contacts. And anyway, and I'm very disappointed in the Democratic leadership, which has absolutely no social media presence, and all they can do is do reels and press releases. But I don't hear anything about Indivisible working on some kind of way that reaches people in the kind of way that Trump has really been the most proficient in.
We do actually have a whole program called the Truth Brigade that works on talking truth to the people that are putting out misinformation and disinformation online. And the Truth Brigade is also focused on these pillar works. So as people are posting, it's like 6,000 Indivisible members that are part of the Truth Brigade that organize on a different Slack space, and they post on their own social medias about various things. And we are organizing them as well around these pillars to both call out those pillars that are upholding the regime and to put pressure on them. So we are doing that, but again, we are just one organization. We need everybody to be participating. So I'd encourage you to check out the Truth Brigade.
What's the name of it?
Truth Brigade.
Truth Brigade. Okay.
I will send out all the links.
Well, thank you.
I just want to say thank you for coming today and presenting all this information. You've done a fantastic job, so number one, thank you for that. 3.5%, 11.5 million people, that's of the U.S. population. But when you look at the folks that voted for Kamala Harris, 75 million, it's about 15% of that group. Why do you think more people aren't out there today? And with all due respect to the group here, the average Asian here is on the higher end. Other folks, like the young lady that's doing the social media, to become a part of Indivisible or other groups that they might associate themselves with?
Yeah, I think in part it's because we do have a largely older movement in Indivisible itself. And we don't have the reach into the communities that Frasia's in. Like, most of our groups aren't on Instagram, and almost none of them are on TikTok. And that's where I get all my information, is from TikTok and Instagram. So, yeah, I think that's part of it, that we're not able to actually reach them and show them that they have power. And there's a lot of people, especially young people right now, that have seen, that maybe they voted for Kamala and Kamala lost, that they feel powerless. And we haven't given them anything, like the Democratic leadership certainly hasn't given them anything to feel inspired about. They just see loss after loss after loss. They see ICE invading their communities and pushing out their family members. So I think we need to inspire them to be able to join the movement. We need to be welcoming them into the movement by expanding our social media reach into the places that they actually exist, or going into the places where they exist, like into community colleges and clubs and places they're going to be at your local bookstore, for the craft fair and whatever. We just have to actually be the places that they are and then talk to them.
I really don't need the microphone. I do have a couple of thoughts that.
You should use it.
Yeah. All right. I do have a couple of thoughts. A lot of us were around in the 60s, and our friends were going to Vietnam. And we started protesting then because it directly affected us. Young people now are not on Social Security. Most of the people in my life are not on Medi-Cal. Most of the people in my life that are younger are working really hard to live in the Bay Area, or a son in the state of Washington. We know living today is a lot harder than it was in the past. My sons say, thank you for doing this. We don't have time to do this. And so what we're doing now with Frasia's, thank you so much, is we are expanding our message. But another thing, we have gotten impatient. I promise not to go on too long. We have gotten impatient looking for a Barack, looking for someone who's going to save us. And I was not signing up for the 1 Million Rising because I'm doing a lot with this group. But when I read that with 1 Million Rising, I could go to my parish priest and say, what are we doing about being a sanctuary parish? It's one little thing, and I'm going to learn how to do that. And 1 Million Rising is going to catch more of us who voted for Kamala, hopefully by us talking to our friends and neighbors. But I think what Danessa has said is she's doing an awful lot of work. We saw all the people up there who are doing a lot of work, and I noticed those faces, they were young. So there's hope. And also, we can't ask Danessa and Indivisible to do it for us. And Indivisible is a nonprofit. So all of us here are not getting paid to do this. And around the United States, we have to get people to understand. I am a former educator. I am talking to STRS, saying, do not divest, do not invest our money in Tesla. All of us have ways that we can push against the regime because everything has happened to us that we were terrified about last October. And it's time for us to get up, sign up, and do the work.
I appreciate that you're going to move to go to 1 Million Rising now. That's very exciting. Yeah, that's a really good point that you made about the young people that were not around for the Vietnam Wars. They were not around for Reagan. In fact, most of the young people that just voted for Kamala were not around for Obama. They didn't know what Obama was. So they didn't have, they've not known hope and change. They've only known Trump and Biden and banality. So we just have to think about that when we're approaching them. Like, they don't have a framework for what, organizing actually looks like, and what hope could be like. Do you have a question?
Yeah. I'll wait for the mic. Hopefully I've got this
I'm getting
preposition.
enough steps.
I know, I'm making a run. A little closer there? There we go. Oh, it's right in the chin, isn't it?
It is.
Did I shave? Find out. With this 1 million rising meetings, are you gonna talk to people and train people how to talk to family and friends to get them off the friggin' sofa? Because I'm getting pretty tired of going to social events. My friends here, I'm going to Tesla protests or this protest, and I'm sending out emails trying to get them engaged. And they'll show up to one protest and they feel vindicated, like I did something and they don't come back. And I feel like a psychiatrist, so listen to them complain about Trump and all the things he's doing wrong, and the politicians aren't helping out. I'll get really tired of listening to them, because I always say, well then, join me, come to indivisible, go to these protests. Will these presentations talk about how to get these people off the ground and actually do something and stop complaining? Because it's frustrating, and I've already given up on it, but I can't because we'll lose this country and our democracy. So I need to be re-energized. How do I talk to them?
Yeah, there will be a component of that, but that's not the focus of the campaign, unfortunately. We have done trainings on how to talk to people before, and you might be able to find them on our YouTube channel. We've done trainings on deep canvassing and how to have those heart-to-heart conversations, and how to have conversations like with your racist uncle, things like that. We've had trainings on that before, but this largely won't be focused on that. But I can send you some resources. I'll send board some stuff if you remind me, I'll forget. To have those harder conversations. We had like a guide about having conversations during Thanksgiving, for instance. So I can get some information for you.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
Hi. One of the things that I started doing, and I didn't do earlier, is wear a shirt around problem. So now I go to the store with this shirt on, and I started putting stickers on my car, about it. You don't see that, and I am amazed that people don't put a bunch of stickers on their car and aren't wearing t-shirts,
Yeah.
So this is one thing and people like it. I was scared when I walked into Smart and Final and people said, oh, I got a t-shirt, and I go, well, you could join Indivisible in your county, and what's that? So then I tell them, I have some cards, so I keep giving it to them and stuff. That's the way to do it. You have to engage people.
I'll be walking over for creating our democracy, absolutely. I got a compliment. I ran into Best Buy to buy that little clicker today. And the woman there complimented my t-shirt, and I was like, that's right, no kings in America. And also Stand Up Alaska, speaking of stickers, I cover Alaska in addition to California and Hawaii, and I was just up there for their No Kings protest and their Juneteenth celebration. They were handing out stickers that say, Trump lied to you, giving them like in sheets so that people could put them places all over town. And I saw a few of them all over town while I was there. So it was pretty cool.
And we have the individual primaries Discord, and this one has all the information. So take one. It's not for you. It's for your friends and families and so forth. And yes, Todd, forget about all those people who don't come. You just have to keep going on because you will find that person eventually. And if you can bring one person, that person can bring another person. That's how we have to do it. So persistence is really everything. Because a lot of people, I brought it here, right? And now it's your turn to bring others in. And just keep asking. You will hit that person.
This sounds pretty stupid, but so I was at People's Park in 1966.
Yeah.
Right. So I knew I didn't like the Vietnam okay, I'm 76 years old, I didn't have a clue what to do. Obviously, I don't like what's going on, but I didn't know how to even do it. So my friend and I talked, we go, we need to find a way to do something. Well, not everybody knows how to do that or has a friend that they feel open to say, do you have any idea, help me with this, right? It really isn't out there.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like,
You gotta, I know, there's not, if you don't have a person to be able to go along with, it can be really scary sometimes.
or just to get the information, like how do you find out where to complain or where to protest or where to help and stuff?
So I would start spreading the gospel of Mobilize to people and tell people to go on mobilize.com. I think it might be mobilize.org. Mobilize is a progressive platform for events that you can just put in your community and be able to find what's going on in your community. You'll see all the Tesla takedown protests, you'll see the invisible meetings, you'll see all of that stuff. And tell people, go to Mobilize just to find something, and you'll find a friend at one of those things. You'll make a friend and you guys can talk about politics and talk about how you're going to talk to your racist uncle and talk about all that stuff. Okay, it looks like no more questions. I just wanted to say, thank you for having me here, but also thank you for showing up. It's really important that we continue to show up in this moment. All we have is each other, and community is what this looks like community to me, and this is what is going to actually break down the regime and make sure that we have a free and fair democracy. And you're all doing that work by showing up here and going to protests, and you're doing it for free on your own limited time, and I just want to say thank you so much from myself and from Indivisible for being the ones that are going to change everything.
Thank you so much, Vanessa, for both portions of that presentation. And Robin, to your question, just keep coming back.
I didn't even know that you got here.
Well, now you do, okay? It's not too late. It's not too late. It's never too late. And then come to our protests, come to Tesla, come to Good Kings, meet Good Kings, come to Good Trouble, come to all this stuff that we're planning, come in our community service. You'll figure it out along the way, because this is still a learning experience for me, and I've been around with Indivisible since 2017 when they first started out. So we are figuring it out together, and you'll meet some fabulous people. And some of those fabulous people are here right now. So, yeah, Sandy.
Just a quick question. I know I've been going to protests in Lafayette and Walnut Creek because I know that we have them usually for an hour per week. What about here? What about the Lehigh Valley?
We are at Tesla every Saturday at noon, noon to 1:30. And those were talking about kind of reimagining those protests, not so much focus just on Tesla and Elon Musk, but on other things, the big beautiful bill, immigration, things like that, to get more people to come out. Well, we're there every Saturday, and I don't want to say commit to this, but the way things are playing out, these big protests, that like hands off on April 5th, no Kings on June 14th, and now Good Trouble this coming week on July. Got a May Day event also. I think there's kind of these big ticket items where you can get hundreds or even thousands of people. With Kings across the country, no Kings across the country, saw 5 million people over 2,100 type of events. So, everyone's got a different commitments. Come to what you can, please. And another thing you can do, help out. We need help. So we've got the tables over there. We will find stuff for you to do to get you more engaged, and maybe more. I'm helping the cost, so we can get to that 3.5%. Okay, so we do have the room until for another hour and 15 minutes, basically. And that's, I'm sorry, one more question, I guess?
I wanted to put in a vote for reimagining the Doge protest.
Huh?
That was, I don't know who's reimagining it.
That would be us, yeah.
But us,
And it is, we'll try that.
yeah, right, but I'm just saying, I know that now, I'm having a discussion about it. I would like to see that.
Yeah, okay. So we bring that for other folks as well.